The Biden administration proposed Medicare and Medicaid to cover weight loss drugs. These are Ozempic, Wegovy. There's been estimates that it could cost, billions of dollars. My guess is this is a little gift to the Trump administration. Basically saying, okay, we're going to float this idea out there. I mean, I from a policy standpoint, I need to read more into it. I've read some things about it, but the bottom line is these drugs appear to be safe. They've certainly been used for an extended period of time in the context of diabetes, but only more recently as I don't know if I would call it a cosmetic thing, but in terms of weight loss. But it's also being used in terms of addiction and other things. There's going to be a huge savings associated with having the population lose weight in terms of diabetes down the road, in terms of heart disease, in terms of all sorts of other issues. Maybe even if it helps in terms of addiction, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. I'm agnostic on that question. But it is going to be interesting to watch the Trump administration and RFK, who has said that he thinks these things are the demon seed, rejected out of hand. RFK, I guess maybe the government will pay for testosterone. Maybe that'll be what the government does. Everybody will get their T shot, and or everybody who wants one.
It would be nice if we could make America healthy again by everybody being able to have 2 hours of exercise every day and going outdoors and having the free time to do that. The problem with whatever RFK is selling in terms of health is that it is from a rich guy's perspective.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when people are like, a banana costs the same as a Big Mac. All right, well, try working, 2 jobs, 6 hours each or whatever, multiple shifts back to back on a frickin' banana, right? This is the kind of stuff that's not practical for people who are living paycheck to paycheck.
We got multiple IMs already saying that people have been helped by Wegovy, et cetera, et cetera. I definitely know people who have, without a doubt. I'm not. I'm being agnostic about that. It's really more I'm talking about the political implications of it.
But I support generically the government covering it.
I support the government covering all medication.
Exactly. Yeah. Just to put that out there.
Yeah. I mean, whether it is properly prescribed in certain areas is another question.
Right.
All right. Let's get in briefly into the tariff question. And it is important for people to get into this mindset right now. Donald Trump is an idiot when it comes to policy. Remember, this is a guy who literally looked over to his doctors in a press conference and said, I don't know if anybody's thought about injecting bleach in to kill the COVID, and then looked to the doctors because he was spitballing, but he wanted to make sure that if this was actually possible, that he would get the credit for it.
Yep.
So understand what's going on in this guy's mind. A, thinks that you can inject bleach, or it's possible you could inject bleach in to kill a virus. B, that he's the first one to think of this. It occurred to him, and so he says it in public, and he looks at the doctors. So he's just like, look, if you end up doing this, and this solves the whole thing, I want credit, because my uncle went to MIT. But the other thing you got to remember about Donald Trump is he wants loyalty and money. One of those two things, always. Every policy he projects is a way to get there. So let's read this. As everyone is aware, thousands of people pouring through Mexico and Canada, bringing crime and drugs at levels never seen before. This is not true. We don't have people pouring through the border. It's at a low ebb historically. They're not bringing crimes and drugs in at levels never seen. Most of the of fentanyl, for that matter, or whatever drug you're talking about, comes in through legal ports. But
And to the
welcome
extent
back to the caravan, by the way.
to the extent drugs are passing the American-Canadian border, they are going from America to Canada.
And on that end, yes. Right now, a caravan coming from Mexico, composed of thousands of people, seems to be unstoppable. Maybe almost as many people who were in the Madison Square Garden for that last rally.
Thousands?
Seems to be unstoppable in its quest to come through our currently open border.
Is this the bullet train?
On
caravan?
January 20th, one of my first many of the executive orders, I'll sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 20% tariff on all products coming to the U.S. and its ridiculous open borders. This tariff will remain in effect till such time as drugs, in particular fentanyl, and illegal aliens stop in the invasion of our country. Both Mexico and Canada have the absolute right and power to solve this long simmering problem. First off, like, this is absurd. Like, why would their wall be any different from our wall? We have far more resources. I've had many talks with China about the massive amount of drugs, particularly fentanyl, being sent to the United States, but to no avail. Representative of China told me they would institute their maximum penalty, that of death, for any drug dealers caught doing this. Unfortunately, they never followed through. Drugs are pouring into our country, mostly through Mexico, at levels never seen before. Until the time they stop, they'll be charging China an additional 10% tariff. Okay. All right. So, how will you implement this? Here's a study from Lehigh University that came out in October. Politically connected corporations received more exemptions from U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports, study finds. In other words, did you donate to Donald Trump? If you did donate to Donald Trump, this study shows that you are more likely to be granted a waiver.
Or are you doing business with, say, Peter Thiel or someone like that, who has a lot of money in different pots and places that do manufacturing in China?
Are you doing business with somebody who is, has donated to Donald Trump? This is the nature of the game that is going to be happening. So, yes, I would bet that Trump is going to impose these tariffs. But yes, I would say it's going to be like Swiss cheese, depending upon which entity has been supportive of him. Yeah. That's that. I mean, end of story.
And like, to clarify, if he were to impose this, it could generate revenue for the federal government. I saw Jeff Stein of the Washington Post said, like, over 10 years, it would raise $1 trillion. But you know what it would do that on the back of? American consumers. It's a regressive tax it's a regressive price increase if it were to be imposed in the way that he's describing it. Because, like, tariffs are the reason, like, Mexico isn't paying the tariff. Canada isn't paying the tariff. China isn't paying the tariff. It's offset onto the American consumer. So, like, in theory, why tariffs can be effective is if they're targeted to say, like, let me boost this American manufacturing sector because they're struggling to compete with this company because their prices are so low. So we put a tariff on it, it raises its prices, and what do you know? More folks are going to go for the cheaper option that's made here domestically. That's when tariffs can be effective. But as a broad revenue generating mechanism, it's regressive taxation. It's doubling down on the sales tax, basically.
We're not going to be getting more of farming of tomatoes in this country. No. Let's put it that way.
And by the way, 2/3 of our tomatoes come from Mexico. 90 and I saw some study. Apparently, Americans consume 20 on average pounds of tomatoes every year. So that's going to go up wherever you get your salads or whatever, or sandwiches. 90% of our avocados come from Mexico, and then the biggest trade partnership we have with them as well are cars and car parts. So, this is not, I mean, that's where I think the Swiss cheese thing could come in.
Well, we also better hope. Because I think we're not in a position to win trade wars like this. All of a sudden, these countries are Mexico's in a stronger position now. These countries are in a
I would also suggest that if China decides to do the same thing with our products, we are effed.
And that's the thing is, like, I think you guys are right. Like, this is not about revenue or about spurring production. It is about grift. And so, like, it's going to be
Totally.
layered out to the extent that they have the winners selected and sort of set up beforehand.
Without a doubt. Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.